a brand. Frank, my husband of 35 years. He was standing over Maya's bed. She was frozen, her eyes wide with a terror so absolute it stole the air from my lungs. One of Frank's large, meaty hands was clamped over her mouth. The other was under her blanket, moving. His back was to me, his shoulders hunched with a predatory focus. I didn't scream. I didn't charge in. A cold, terrifying clarity descended upon me. This was not a moment for hysterics. This was a war, and it had just begun with a single horrific shot. I took a single silent step back. The floorboard didn't creak. I retreated to my bedroom, my body moving on autopilot. I picked up my phone from the nightstand. My hands were steady. I opened the camera, switched to video, and set it to record. I muted the sound. I walked back to the guest room door. I held the phone steady, the lens aimed through the crack. I recorded for 10 seconds. It was enough. It was everything. I retreated again, back to the shadows of my bedroom. I stopped the recording. I saved it. I emailed it to a secret account I used for recipe storage. Then I deleted the video from my phone. A minute later, I heard Frank's heavy footsteps in the hall. He paused outside our bedroom door, listening. I slid back into bed, closed my eyes, and forced my breathing into the slow, deep rhythm of sleep. The door opened. He stood there for a long moment, a dark silhouette watching me. I could feel his gaze, probing, testing. I didn't move. He finally shuffled in, the bed groaning as his weight settled beside me. He smelled of cheap whiskey and sweat. He was asleep in minutes, snoring softly. I lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The man lying next to me was a monster, and he had no idea I now held his leash. My only mistake was waking up, and his was thinking I would go back to sleep. Part 2. The Trap. The next morning, the kitchen was a theater of the absurd. Frank was at the table, buried behind the newspaper, a pillar of paternal normalcy. Maya was pale, moving like a ghost, her hands shaking as she poured coffee. She wouldn't look at either of us. "Morning, sweetheart," Frank boomed, not looking up from his sports section. "Sleep well?" Maya flinched. I saw her knuckles turn white on the coffee carafe. "She was up late reading, I think," I said, my voice calm as I placed a plate of toast on the table. "Weren't you, Maya? I saw your light on." Frank's eyes flicked up from the paper, sharp and suspicious, first at me, then at Maya. Yes," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. "Couldn't sleep," I smiled, a warm, motherly smile. "You should try the chamomile tea I have. It works wonders. I was speaking in code, a code of safety, a code that said, 'I see you, I know. You are not alone.'" Frank grunted, satisfied, and went back to his paper. The predator, confident his prey was isolated and silent. Later, when Frank left for his weekly golf game, a euphemism I now understood covered a multitude of sins, I found Maya curled up on the sofa, crying silently. "Maya," I said softly. She jerked away from me, wrapping her arms around herself. "Don't! I saw him," I said, my voice low and firm. "Last night, I saw what he did." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with fresh terror. "No, you can't. He will do nothing." I cut her off, because I have proof. I showed her the email on my laptop, the video file waiting in the drafts folder. I didn't play it for her. She didn't need to see it again. The knowledge was enough. Her entire body sagged with a relief so profound it looked like pain. "Oh, God, we are going to stop him," I said. "But we have to be smart. He's dangerous. If he suspects anything, he'll become unpredictable." "What do we do?" she asked, her voice a little stronger. "We give him enough rope to hang himself," I said. "We make him feel safe. Then we make him confess." I had a plan. It was risky, but it was all we had. I bought a high-quality voice-activated recorder, a tiny, powerful device. I hid it in the living room, tucked inside a hollowed-out book on the highest shelf, a place he would never look. That night, I staged an argument. I waited until Frank was deep into his second bottle of whiskey. I'm thinking of going to visit my sister for a week, I announced. She needs help sorting through some old things. Frank scowled. Now, why now? Because she asked me, Frank. It's just a week. You and Maya will be fine. I saw the calculation in his eyes. A week, alone in the house with Maya. No wife to interfere. The predator saw an opening. Fine, he grumbled, trying to sound put out. Do what you want. The trap was set. I left the next morning, making a show of packing a suitcase and driving away. I didn't go to my sister's. I drove to a motel 10 miles away and checked in under a fake name. I waited. The recorder was synced to an app on my phone. I could listen live. I didn't have to wait long. That evening I heard it all. Frank's voice, slurred and lecherous, propositioning Maya, her terrified, pleading refusals, his growing anger, the sound of a struggle, a slap, then his voice, cold and clear amidst the drunken haze. You think anyone will believe you? You're a little slut whose husband left her. I'm a respected man, a pillar of this community. If you say a word, I'll tell them you came onto me, that you're unstable. They'll lock you up and throw away the key. And your precious Mark? It would break him. You'll destroy his career. Now be a good girl and do as you're told. It was a perfect, damning confession. Coercion, threats, physical violence. He had handed me everything I needed. But he wasn't done. He was going to ensure her silence permanently. I heard him on the phone later talking to one of his shady associates. Yeah, the old quarry. Midnight. Deep. Yeah, bring the backhoe. No, nobody. Just a loose end that needs tying up. Permanently. My blood turned to ice. He wasn't just a predator. He was a killer. He was planning to bury me. He had discovered I hadn't actually gone to my sister's. He had figured out I knew. And his solution was to make me disappear. My only mistake was underestimating his capacity for evil. But he had made a bigger one. He had given me a timetable. I knew where he would be, and I knew when. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. Frank had friends in the department. A respected man. They might tip him off. I couldn't risk it. I had one card left to play. A dangerous all-or-nothing move. I called the one person Frank would never expect. His older brother, Ray. Ray was a retired Marine. A man of rigid, uncompromising honor. He and Frank had been estranged for years. Frank considered him a Boy Scout. Right now, I needed a Boy Scout. Ray, it's Clara, I said when he answered, my voice tight. I need your help. It's about Frank. It's bad. I played him the audio over the phone. The threats to Maya. The phone call about the quarry. The plan to bury me. There was a long, deadly silence on the other end of the line. When Ray spoke, his voice was like granite. Where are you? I told him. I'll be there in an hour. Don't move. Ray arrived with 2 of his friends, men who looked like they could break Frank in half without breaking a sweat. They had a plan. We're not calling the cops, Ray said. Not until we have him on site. We'll be there. We'll record the whole thing. We'll get him to confess to everything on tape, with witnesses. It was a citizen's arrest. It was risky, but it was the only way to ensure he couldn't talk his way out of it. That night at 11:30 p.m., I drove to the old quarry. It was a desolate place, all jagged rock and deep, water-filled pits. Ray and his men were already there, hidden in the shadows. I had the voice recorder running in my pocket. Frank's truck pulled up, followed by a flatbed truck with a small backhoe on it. His associate, a wiry, nervous man named Joe, was driving. I stepped out of my car into the beam of their headlights. Frank froze, his face a comical mask of shock that quickly twisted into pure rage. You, he snarled. Hello, Frank, I said, my voice echoing in the vast, empty space. Going to bury your problems? His eyes darted to Joe, then back to me. You stupid bitch. You should have just let it go. Let you abuse our daughter-in-law? Let you kill me? No, Frank, I don't think so. He took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. It's your word against mine, and you won't be around to give it. Are you going to confess, Frank? I asked, my voice loud and clear for the recorder. "Are you going to admit you tried to sexually assault Maya? That you hit her? That you came here tonight to murder your wife to cover it up?" He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Confess, why not? There's no one here to hear it but you and Joe. And you'll both be at the bottom of that quarry. Yeah, I touched the little bitch. She was asking for it. And you were always in the way. A man has needs, Clara. You stopped providing them, so I found them elsewhere. And now I'm taking out the trash." It was a full, unequivocal confession. From the shadows, Ray and his two friends emerged. They moved with a quiet, lethal purpose. Frank's eyes bulged. "Ray? What the? It's over, Frank," Ray said, his voice like cold steel. We heard everything. Joe, the associate, threw his hands up. "I'm out. I didn't know it was for this. He just said it was a disposal job." He scrambled back into his truck and sped away, leaving Frank alone. Frank stood there, trapped in the headlights, his empire of lies collapsing around him. The respected man, the pillar of the community, exposed as a vicious predator and a would-be murderer. Ray nodded to one of his friends, who pulled out a phone and called the police. My only mistake was marrying him, and his was believing that his reputation was a shield that could protect him from the truth. I wasn't just a wife he could silence. I was a witness, and I had brought my own jury. The police arrived, their sirens cutting through the quarry's silence. They found a scene straight out of a crime thriller. Frank, pinned by Ray's friends, raving and spitting curses. Me, standing calmly with a digital recorder in my hand. And Ray, providing a crisp, military-style debrief. They listened to the recording. Frank's confession, clear as day. His plan to bury me. They arrested him on the spot. The charges were a laundry list of evil. Attempted sexual assault, battery, solicitation to commit murder, conspiracy. He was denied bail. A danger to the community, to his family. The news exploded. Pillar of community, arrested in shocking plot to murder wife. The story was everywhere. His friends, his golf buddies, his business associates. They all vanished. The shield of his reputation had shattered, and underneath was nothing but rot. Mark, our son, was flown home on emergency leave. Telling him was the second hardest thing I've ever had to do. The first was watching Maya's face that night in the guest room. He was devastated, angry, guilty for not being there to protect his wife. He held Maya for a long time, and I saw the first steps of their healing begin. Together. The legal process was slow but relentless, with the audio recording, the testimony from Ray and his friends, and Maya's brave statement. The case against Frank was airtight. His lawyer tried to argue entrapment, that he was drunk, that I had manipulated him. None of it stuck. He took a plea deal to avoid a trial. Life in prison, with no possibility of parole for 25 years. He would die behind bars. At the sentencing, he was allowed to speak. He looked old, shrunken in his orange jumpsuit. He didn't look at me or Maya. He stared at the judge. "She set me up," he muttered, pointing a trembling finger in my direction. "That woman, she destroyed my life." The judge slammed his gavel. "You destroyed your own life, Mr. Anderson. The court finds no merit in your statement." As they led him away, he finally turned and looked at me. His eyes were full of a pure, undiluted hatred I knew would burn, until his last breath. I felt nothing. No fear, no satisfaction, just a vast, empty silence. My husband tried to bury me. He thought the weight of his reputation and the dirt from that quarry would be enough to silence me forever. But he forgot one thing. Seeds grow in dirt, and from the horror he planted, a forest of justice grew. I wasn't buried. I was the one who put him in the ground. We sold the house. The memories in every floorboard, every room, were too heavy to carry. Mark and Maya used their share of the money as a down payment on a small house on the other side of the country. A fresh start far from the ghost of Frank. Ray and I grew closer. The shared experience of that night in the quarry forged a bond of respect and family that Frank had never allowed. He checked in on me every week. I moved into a small, bright condo overlooking the river. I started volunteering at a shelter for victims of domestic violence, using my experience to help other women find their voice, their proof, their way out. It was there, 6 months after Frank's sentencing, that I received a letter. It was from the state penitentiary. Frank's handwriting was shaky, unfamiliar. Clara, I have been doing a lot of thinking in here. The therapists make us. They say I need to take responsibility. So here it is. I am sorry. Not for what I did to you. You betrayed me. You turned my own family against me. I'm sorry I didn't see what you were sooner. I'm sorry I didn't make that quarry pit deeper. You took everything from me. But you can't take my truth. You were a bad wife. You drove me to it. Don't write back. I read the letter once. Then I folded it neatly, walked to my kitchen sink and set it on fire. I watched the flames curl the paper, turning his hatred into black ash, which I then washed down the drain. There was no forgiveness in me. Not for him. There was only the quiet, steady knowledge that I had survived. I had protected my family. I had won. My husband tried to bury me alive. He thought my love for him would make me a silent accomplice to my own murder. But he was wrong. He buried the weak, trusting woman I used to be. And I was the one who clawed my way out of that grave, stronger, harder, and free. My only mistake was loving a monster, and my victory was surviving to tell the tale.